an open source DNA project has announced that they are shutting down, and the cause of their shutdown is what seems to me to be Trump derangement syndrome. That literally seems to be what happened. The founder of the project has such an overwhelming case of Trump derangement syndrome of TDS that he simply cannot continue running the project. Let me walk you through it and you tell me if I'm off on this one. So what we're talking about here is something called OpenSNP, and they describe themselves as thus. OpenSNP allows customers of direct-to-customer genetic tests to publish their test results, find others with similar genetic variations, learn more about their results by getting the latest primary literature on their variations, and help scientists find new associations. Basically, it's a website for people to upload their genetic data to, and for researchers to download giant groups of genetic data, and it's a big open source project. And they announced that they were sunsetting everything. They're shutting it all down, and that they're going to delete the website and the data and the project and the source code and everything on April 30th of this year. So just at the end of this coming month. And you can go currently to their GitHub page at opensnp.org and find their GitHub page and download all of it and look through their presentations and their website and their backend and all their Docker instances and all that stuff. It's a big open source project, right? So the founder of the project announced that he was going to be shutting this down. The project's been going for over a decade now. And he posted the following blog post. Here it is. I'm just going to read a little bit to you now because it was long-winded. Quote, as this blog post is being published, we are sending out emails to all OpenSNP users with some news. OpenSNP will be turned off, and with that, also delete all the data stored on it on April 30th. Given that the project has been part of my life for so many years and shaped how I view data commons and open and free culture, it seemed just right to take a bit of space for a retrospective, but also the reasons why I think it's time to pull the plug now. Jumping down a little bit because he talked about a bunch of stuff, but what I want to get to is this. Quote, this is not the only anti-science knowledge backlash around in 2025. He's basically talking about how there's a lot of people that hate science right now. Across the globe, there is a rise in far right and other authoritarian governments. While they are cracking down on free and open societies, they are also dedicated to replacing scientific thought and reasoning with pseudoscience across disciplines. In the US, medicine in particular, alongside climate change, has been targeted by removing trustable source to replace them with the crackpot theories of those in power, all while large corporations that are aligned with those governments are strip mining and polluting our digital commons and strain our open culture infrastructure, such as free and open software repositories, Wikipedia, and others at the same time, end quote. So the individual in question here, his name is Bastian Grishaki Sovaras. This is a screenshot from his Mastodon page, his biography there. He describes himself as a researcher and Luddite interested in theory and practice of peer production, lover of all things open science, citizen science, open source, etc., etc. He's got a little trans flag there that he flies. And he reached out to and was contacted by a number of different news outlets. I reached out but did not get a response. But he did provide a couple of quotes for a few others. Here's a quote that he provided for 404 Media. Quote, I've been thinking about this since 23andMe was on the verge of bankruptcy and been really considering it shutting down his service since the United States election where Trump took over, right? It definitely is real bad over there in the United States. I am quite relieved to have made the decision and come to a conclusion. It's been weighing on my mind for a long time. Grishake Sovaris, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name, my apologies there, said that he is proud of the Open SNP project, but that in a world where scientific data is being censored and deleted, and where the Trump administration has focused on criminalizing immigrants and trans people, he now believes that the most responsible thing to do is to delete all the data and shut down the open source project. TechCrunch reached out to him. Quote, when reached by TechCrunch, Grishake Sovaris was blunt in his decision to shut down OpenSNP now and not sooner. The why now to me is ultimately down to there being what counts for a fascist coup in the United States. Now, apparently this guy is a native of Germany. He's not a U.S. citizen. He's German, but he's real upset about Trump. Quote, seeing people being disappeared from the streets under the most dubious pretexts really can't be called anything else. He calls it a fascist coup. So he says that the election of Donald Trump was a fascist coup, right? And so he has to shut down his open source project because there was a fascist coup in the United States. Grishake Sovaris said that the, quote, wholesale dismantling of scientific institutions and science itself since January, the beginning of the second Trump administration, was a factor in the shutdown of OpenSNP. The Register also reached out to him, and they published the following headline: Genetic data repo OpenSNP to self-destruct before authoritarians weaponize it. Blame 23andMe implosion, rise in far-right government. That's from Thomas Claiborne from over at the Register, which famously runs cover for a lot of leftist big tech organizations regularly and takes every chance they can get to attack Trump-related people, right? Now, this is kind of an ongoing thing. We're seeing this sort of self-implosion and detonation happen repeatedly. Just a few months back, a little over a month ago, we saw a number of Linux kernel developers quit Linux kernel development because they felt like there were far-right people that were allowed to be involved in Linux kernel development, and after their efforts to get those people banned didn't succeed completely, they themselves bailed, right? We're like, well, I won't have anything to do with this anymore. There's right-wing people there. They're fascists and Nazis. And we've seen this on and on and on. Codeberg and Postmarket OS, a source code repository system named after an iceberg, and Postmarket OS, a Linux-based smartphone system, they both have declared war on right-wing forces. Now, what's really interesting about so many of these examples is they don't really point to anything that's just obviously real. In the case of the right-wing forces attack by Postmarket OS and Codeberg, they literally point to nothing. They apparently had a little bit of spam in one of their services that was not political in any way, shape, or form, had 2 words in it that were not political words, and they use that as proof that they're under constant assault from far right-wing forces and that they have to fight back and all these on and on and on and on and on, right? And we've seen over and over again that people on the hard left are almost increasingly ratcheting up their calls for violence and separation. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has been sharing out lessons on how to vandalize and destroy Tesla vehicles without getting caught by the cameras on Tesla vehicles. Seems like that's just training terrorism. Some tech journalists who are on the far left, the open source world, have been specifically calling for cars to be firebombed with Molotov cocktails. Quote, new cars bought recently, all fair game. Molotov cocktails are cheap to make. That was from the editor of osnews.com. And on and on and on. And so we're just seeing this happen over and over again. I mean, shoot, I was supposed to, last month, I was supposed to go to South by Southwest, and people who were very clearly very left-wing made it very clear that I was probably not going to survive the trip. They made it clear that they knew where and when I would be exactly there, and that I was, quote, to watch your back, fascist. You are complicit in genocide. We know where you'll be. See you there. I mean, it makes it very crystal clear, right? These people are pushing crazy ideas and pushing violence, and now we see this guy. This project, this open source project. I mean, there's more than one person involved, but the founder made the call, I think, of this open SNP genetic database project. Now, putting aside whether or not you think this project's a good idea or not, I would question it. But putting that aside, he's run it for over a decade, I think. And he's canceling it now because of the fascist coup in the United States and the wholesale dismantling of science itself. Now, is that happening? Obviously not, but they're crazy. It's hardcore Trump derangement syndrome to an intense degree. Call it Trump derangement syndrome, Elon derangement syndrome, Lunduke derangement syndrome, whatever. It's a derangement syndrome, and there's no basis in rational thought behind any of this. So literally, the argument here is, oh my gosh, Trump is so evil that he's shutting down scientific organizations. So we're going to respond by shutting down our open source scientific organization. Say what now? It's like saying, I'm really upset that guy over there is closing his farm. So I'm going to respond by closing my farm. Like what? I don't understand what's going on here. So he's literally upset at Trump waging war on science. So he's going to give up on science, shut down his open source project, stop doing science. It doesn't make any sense. It's not rational. It's not logical. It's crazy. People believe that these authoritarian Trump-like far-right regimes are going to weaponize these open source projects to get people, especially trans people and immigrants. Like what? What are these people thinking? Like there's it doesn't even make any sense. When you go over to Mastodon right now, I should have grabbed some screenshots of this, but you guys can go find it yourself. It's so easy to find. If you go over to Mastodon right now and look through some of the open source people on Mastodon, right? The people who congregate in open source on Mastodon are always very extreme left, right? And if you start looking through the posts of the prominent people, the project leaders and the moderators and the whatnot of these projects over on Mastodon, you will find a steady stream of discussion about how awful it is that right now in the United States, there is a genocide. Trans people are being rounded up and murdered in bulk, right? According to them. Now, nobody can point to even one example of that happening because it's not, right? I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy talk. If that was happening, I'd be out here yelling about how awful that is, but it's not happening. And they can't point to an example of it happening, but they feel like it's happening. And so it's so dangerous to be in America. It's dangerous to be in the United States. Oh, they're coming after trans people. So we got to, so these projects are responding by shutting down. So there we go. There we go. Open source projects are calling it quits because Trump derangement syndrome infected them so badly that their brains broke. That's where we're at right now. It's fascinating to me to watch. It's absolutely fascinating. I'm going to keep on covering it in part because it makes no sense. In my brain, I mean, I see it happening. I see it happening right in front of me. I see their statements. I see their actions. I see it. I believe that it is happening, that they're infected with so much Trump derangement syndrome that they can't make an open source piece of software that has nothing to do with Trump. But that doesn't make any sense to me. It's so illogical. Oh, but anyway, report on it because it's crazy and this should be documented. Thank you to the Lunduke Journal subscribers. Go to lunduke.com, click on all the links. They're great. They're the best links. Lunduke.com. It's the best website on the internet, probably, give or take. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.